Well, hello again, and welcome back to the Philippines. I'm outside of Dumaguete, up in the mountains out past the town of Valencia, and at a place called Vista Panoramica. And I thought, you know what, I'm in these beautiful locations, I'll get myself out of the hotel room, and I might as well show where I'm at and share a little bit of that with you before I get into a story. And as you can see here, it's just absolutely gorgeous. What's cool is I'm literally maybe 30 minutes from the coast out there. A little bit hazy today, but you can see the valley that I've driven up through. And I'm up at maybe 2,500 meters. Or no, I'm sorry, about 2,500 feet, maybe 800 or 900 meters. It's nice and cool, breeze is blowing. And this is a geothermic area, I guess that's correct, geothermic area. There's a power plant just behind me, and they're making electricity through geothermic energy. Bunch of lava vents and stuff like that around here. But anyway, today I'd like to tell you about my friend Computer Bob. I met Computer Bob in the mid-90s over in the Bahamas. Computers had been out for a while, but I had just started to show some interest in computers, and my friends are like, you know, friends are on professional yachts, and they were already doing stuff with computers, and they're like, you really need to learn some of this stuff. So I had gotten a brother-in-law of mine to give me an old 386 computer. I think it was IBM, it had the 386, I'm not really sure. But it was an antique. He had a computer business, and there's some stuff he had in the back room. So I had set it up on my trawler, and I could never figure out how to make the thing work because it wasn't working. So I was over in the Bahamas, and I met some other friends, and I don't know if they were new friends or whatever, but they kept telling me about this guy. Oh, if your computer doesn't work, well, get Computer Bob to come fix it. He works on anything computers. So I had an introduction to Computer Bob, and he said he'd come over to my boat. And Bob comes over to the boat, and he says, yeah, he charges like some ridiculous amount, I don't know, 40, 50 bucks an hour to work on computers, but figured that I was a poor yachtsman out there, and he says, maybe we can make some exchanges. He says, I hear you're a really good spear fisherman, and he says, I'd like some training on spear fishing. And he says, I'll fix your computer if you'll teach me how to spear fish. And I'm like, okay, that works for me. That's definitely in my realm. And we spear fish almost every day in the Bahamas. So Bob gets to working on my computer, and yeah, it doesn't work. And he's like, yeah, I think I can fix it. So I was doing some stuff on the boat, and sort of, you know, I don't like to look over somebody's shoulder when they're working, and I come back into the aft cabin where he's at, and he literally has this computer pulled out into tiny little pieces, little boards sitting everywhere on the bed, and I'm looking at it going, I said, you think you can put this thing back together? Will it work? And he's like, yeah, I think I can make it work. He says, it needs cleaned up. He says, I think the contacts are bad. And he has all the boards, and he's got an eraser. And that's his repair job. He's got an eraser, and he's going over all the contacts, and he's cleaning this thing up. And I'm like, this is okay. I don't really care. It's a free computer, but I don't think it's ever going back together again. But damn, he puts the whole thing back together again, and sure enough, it fires up and it works. So he gets the computer going and gives me some lessons. And the funny thing with Bob was he would always tell his wife, I'll be back in an hour. And if you know anything about computers, especially the old ones, you're lucky to get them turned on in an hour rather than actually fix them. So I don't know, he spent the afternoon there, and he gave me some basic computer lessons and got me started on my computer career. I don't know if Bob told me at that time or a later time, but Computer Bob was a troubleshooter for IBM. They flew him around the world to work on big computer systems and get them up and running. He showed me one day, he had a little box of floppy disk, and he told me it was some ridiculous amount, like $50,000 or $100,000 worth of floppies in there. He was a computer specialist. So when I was sitting there in the cockpit or in the aft cabin, I asked him if he could fix my 386, and he's like, yeah, I think I can put it back together. It was sort of a joke, and he didn't tell me anything about it. But in good standing, I'm like, okay, I owe Bob some diving lessons. Now, let's describe Bob. Bob is a big man, and I mean big in all dimensions. He's like 6'4". I don't know, I'm gonna say he was at least 250 pounds, maybe 300 pounds at that time. And Bob, I know you're gonna watch this, and I'm not trying to be rude, but he was a big guy. And he tells me, even today, when he works too much on the computer, he sort of has a tendency to put on weight. But Bob was a big guy. So I'm looking at Bob going, okay, I gotta give him some diving lessons, and I'm figuring Bob's gonna float. He's got a little extra poundage on him, will be polite the way we're saying this. And I'm basically thinking I'm gonna have a walrus in the water and I'm gonna have to deal with him, and you know, I'm supposed to teach him how to spearfish. Well, much to my surprise, Bob was a walrus in the water, one that could swim like one too. Bob really didn't have any issues for swimming and free diving. He was actually very good at it. What I worried about Bob after taking him out to teach him some stuff about spearfishing was maybe how to teach him not how to kill himself. He definitely could free dive. He was a very good swimmer, but he would disappear in the little caves and rocks underneath the shelves when we were spearfishing. He'd see a fish and I'd see, like, you know, his fins sticking about this far out of the rocks. And I was like, holy crap, man, there's stuff in there, like, there's big green morays, and I just have respect for those guys because they're 6 foot long, sometimes 2 meters, and they tuck up into the rocks, and I mean, they can jam themselves in there. If they reach on and grab your shoulder or something like that, I always thought you could be in a real bad bind. So I sort of like to take a look and see what's in the cave before I go in the cave and try and shoot something. Bob was straight down in the cave trying to find whatever he could, and yeah, teaching Bob how to spearfish was not really that hard. It was more about just teaching him about what was safe and what was not safe. And Bob and I have been friends for, God, I think that was mid-90s when I met him. And the other day, he seen I posted a YouTube channel and he was chatting with me online, and he's still cruising on his boat. He took about a 15-year hiatus, raised a couple kids, and now him and his wife have a big catamaran, and they go down to the Bahamas every winter. And I was chatting with him the other day, and he's like, man, I really got to go. It's starting to get late in the afternoon. I got to go kill some dinner. So Computer Bob's still out there killing stuff. So yeah, Bob is an interesting man. Very nice gentleman. I'm very happy to have crossed paths with him. But yeah, he could put the 386 back together again. All right, Bob, good to talk to you. I know you're watching the video. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.